Hi everyone, I hope you're well. This is CoinsKid, just going to XRP, and once again, thank you for support. Okay, but the CoinsKid crew, so XRP yesterday, it had a nice little pullback, didn't it, as anticipated. Like I said to you, I do anticipate a retracement to the God candle back test around about 307, then a rejection, and then a loss of that low, and it should come down and create that ABC zigzag. So we've come down, but on the Bing chart, which is a chart that I like to use for my trading, it has lost that September low. So that could be a clue that, okay, we're still in the correction. A lot of people jumping in with life savings right now thinking the bottom's in. You know, they're just going to lose money in the short term, and then they're going to sell into the fear that really is coming in this market, because I think we've got a clue in the crystal ball indicator that we are in some kind of big ABC zigzag correction here across the board, and we've not necessarily bottomed in this correction. There'll be a little bit more fear, and what I'm looking at, some kind of retracement over the next week or something coming up, and then another drop just to sweep the lows. Everyone loses their mind, and then that is the optimal entry point for your continued bull market here, where into Q4, October, late October into November, we will see that massive move to the upside, which is pretty much what we saw last year. So if we take a look at XRP, for example, let's take a look at XRP in a 4-hourly time frame. Something quite similar is what I'm anticipating as for what we've got here. Where we've got this final sweep of these lows. So you come down, you come up, yeah, it's taken off space, final sweep, breakout, back to see you later. So we could be setting up for something quite similar yet again with XRP. We're coming down the stairs, there's your flush, you trade back up, you drop again, and you come back up, and then you break out, basically. So with that, there may be a little bit of confluence in the crystal ball indicator. I'm going to show you that this is the exact scenario. We come down in the A, come up in the B, final C, breakout, back test, go. Okay, very similar time frame into late October, early November again for XRP. It could be the case that it's doing that, because if we take a look at this right now for XRP, look how much it's come up. Amazing. We've seen this flush just here. Okay, so you come up like this, yeah, it's taken off. This was the bottom, and like I said to you, this is the Bing chart. If you take a look, it's lost that low. So structurally, you've lost that low for me. Okay, so come up like this looks like a third wave. You come up like this, everyone's like, yeah, it's bullish, that's it, it's taken off the space, the bottom's in, and then the final flush down, just like we got late last year into October into November, and then we go. And this flush down here will be the buying opportunity for XRP. Okay, just like the opportunity that I relayed to you for anyone paying attention late last year as well. Now what we're looking for obviously is the data in the charts. Okay, so this is what I think we may have in front of us. This is where we are. We've seen that flush at the downside that pretty much kind of held that low on a lot of charts. Then it comes up, then it drops once more. People that are buying here, they sell here thinking, oh my god, we went to the bear market. Comes up, back test, see you later, we're out of there. Remember, this is the 4-hourly time frame. Now there may be a clue that that is about to happen because of something I'm looking at called the crystal ball, and this is one of the things with XRP I've been looking at resales to anticipate this pullback right now. Okay, so one of the equally confluencing factors is the tether dominance. If this starts to get into the sell zone, okay, this is where you're looking at buying opportunities on XRP, especially on the macro. Okay, if it's pulling into the the buy zone, you are not looking at buying opportunities on XRP, you're looking at selling opportunities on XRP. And go back to the videos, this particular radar just there, the tether dominance, is one of the reasons on the micro I was anticipating a pullback. So I'm always trying to find the waves with you, but if we do have another little sweep of these lows that we put in yesterday, I think a lot of people think we've entered the bear market, but at that point we should be creating some kind of leading diagonal. But I will try and get this updated for you. I'm going to try and include the wave counts and the bullish and bearish data, but yesterday, like I relayed to you, the configure alerts on the 15-minute time frame, I did say to anything below 20 or above 80, I've got an alert for that. And yesterday we've seen that sweep on the 15-minute time frame. Nice little sweep down there, 15-minute, nice little buying zone. Obviously doesn't guarantee the bottom's in, but it's just a nice little buy zone to come back up. So straight off the bat, you've got a god candle back test just there, and another god candle back test just there. This may be some kind of ABC coming back up, and another sweep of the lows eventually, which will be a buying opportunity in my opinion. Let's dive into the charts right now to see what we can see. Looking at XRP on a 5-day time frame, I don't see any reason to jump up and down and say bear market on XRP at the moment. Now one of the concerning things would be, again I'm relaying I don't see that, is if we'd have seen something like this for XRP where in a short period of time it pulls back and loses the ribbon, just like it did there, and equally just there in this previous impulse just there and loses a ribbon, and equally just there in this impulse where it's had 5 ways up and loses a ribbon, then obviously I'll be a little bit more concerned. Okay, so we saw a warning shot in the data just there, warning shot in the data just there, warning shot in the data just there, and we've not seen the warning shot in the data yet. Okay, so obviously I could be completely wrong, but my primary is we've ramped up just there, we've gone sideways in the correction, and right now we're looking bullish, providing we can hold the data and the support of the ribbon from this point. Okay, so I think possibly we bottomed in April, we've come up in 1, pull back 2, this has been a 3, right now it's coming back in a 4, it's getting horrible, but again overlapping zigzaggy waves, look at that, overlapping corrective nature. And with that, we should eventually turn around and put in a final fifth wave to the upside. So what we're looking at, what would be a really good scenario for all of us, to be honest with you, because it could give us a trend line to actually sell. Because at the moment you see, figures thrown all over the place. People make numbers up and things like that, or even just use Fibonacci. Basically 1.272, $4.18, 1414, 465, the 1618 at 541, order 2, order 2.27, whatever. I'm seeing figures all over the place. So what would be good in a potential final impulse here is if we see something called a leading diagonal, because it gives us a neckline into resistance basically. And I've traded many of these over the years. We've traded a couple of these on XRP, in recent times. For anyone that's been with the channel will know, we've traded a couple of these successfully. And what it is, really, really simple in layman's terms, that, if you see something in a leading diagonal where it starts from the bottom, comes up in a 1, pulls back in a 2, breaks in a 3, pulls back in a 4, that loses the wave 1 high and falls into the basically your wave 1 high, it becomes a leading diagonal. So there may be a little bit of confluence, in this particular pattern that we're seeing, some kind of flag just there where you're holding this support, you're coming down like that. It may be the case that XRP is still in the correction. Okay, so from this impulse here, this is your 3, you've got some kind of A, B, C, D, E wave correction potentially that comes into the bottom of the ribbon once more, into this neckline, into this support once more, and then breaks. Because if that is the case, into Q4, you're on this neckline where you've got this broadening wedge, broadening channel, which is basically a very bullish setup for XRP. Because if this comes back and breaks out, like I said to you, you're in price discovery, you can only look at the fibs and where do you sell. But this neckline would be a golden sweet spot to just sell into, for me personally, if we was to see this setup. And this is why I do think possibly we could see another little flush of these lows. Everyone gets incredibly bearish, but look, higher low structure, beautiful, and higher high structure with that final blow off, basically where you see a big rug pull into the ribbon, which is basically what we saw here and saw there and saw there, which was the end of your big impulse. And at that point, you expect some kind of horrible drawdown, nasty correction, okay, which is potentially in front of us down the line, okay, for XRP. So that is currently my outlook. If we was to lose that high, I think it is around about 265, then we could be looking at that, beautiful setup to finish this beautiful impulse off for XRP into that neckline of a potential leading diagonal, which is pretty much what we saw just there. 1 into a pullback, 2, breakout 3, come back in the 4 that lost the wave 1 high in January 2023. I think it lost it in the spring. Oh no, it's going to 0. Held this structural support and boom, broke out in the final fifth to that neckline. And again, it came back in beautifully on the ribbon. But the indication of the coming in was the fact that you basically in a short period of time you had the massive rug pull and lost the ribbon. And this is what we currently don't see. We're holding the ribbon, which is really important, okay, on the 5-day time frame. So there may be a little bit of confluence, okay, we've entered some kind of correction at this point, XRP's come up and we've got some kind of zigzag, and we should be finishing off this correction as we roll into October because of the crystal ball. So if we take a look at it on the daily time frame right now, it may be a clue that we finish this correction as we roll into October, and at that point, it's all systems go for this huge beautiful move into this neckline. But obviously we've got to see the pullback, we've got to see the loss of this wave 1 high, where this looks a little bit like this. 1, 2, 3, pullback 4 into the bottom of the ribbon. Oh no, it's going to 0, and it breaks in the final fifth into Q4, which would be absolutely amazing, because at that point I've got a sell point for you guys, okay, and hopefully it plays out like this. But remember, I've not got a crystal ball, can't see into the future, no guarantees in this space. This is just simple technical analysis, and obviously what I'm looking for is structure being lost. If we lose this low that we're pulling in, I think it was June, and most importantly that low, then obviously you're in a whopping correction, crashing correction. At that point I'll be projecting buy zones down here, okay, but so far I'm just respecting the data and structure that technically from this bottom, 1, pullback 2, 3, pullback 4, if it breaks the wave 1 high, becomes leading diagonal, and boom, final fifth wave up. And it's pretty much how this move started in January of 2023. 1, pullback 2, breakout 3, pullback 4, final fifth up, boom, horrible nasty correction and drawdown to where you came from. So that's a potential scenario I'm looking at for XRP going forward, okay? So let's dive into the daily right now, because on the daily it does show that if we're just respecting this crystal ball, then this correction is not necessarily over, okay? Looking at XRP on the daily time frame, at the moment the structural support is there's a pivot low on April, and here's a pivot low in June, there's a pivot high, there's a pivot high, and structurally, from this bottom, high highs, high lows, really simple. So again, if you break down below this low, you lose this trend line, you are decreasing the probability of some kind of leaning diagonal. Now this is a very important low as well. I think a lot of people think the bull market support is there for XRP. I actually think it's there because it is structural support of higher highs and high lows. If you was to break down below this here, this would be a free wave move up, not an impulsive move. So this is a very important low. at 191.09. Basically, if you do start to see XRP break down from this point and lose that low, okay, it could be in a deep poo basically, where it's coming down the stairs. At that point, all of this could still be the correction that it's in. That is not my primary, to be honest with you. I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt. I think we've seen an impulse into a pullback, into an impulse into a potential pullback that does something like that into Q4. And one of the clue things that I'm looking at is really simple. It's a crystal ball. We take a look at that based on M2 global money supply. You can clearly see, look, this bottoms out down here, and this is one of the reasons why, as I said to you, I'm not selling XRP. I'm anticipating all-time highs here for XRP, and it's the same thing I'm relaying to you right now. We've got the crystal ball trending up. So like I said to you, we've got some kind of sharp pullback in liquidity as we come into mid-September. We will see this drawdown, but as we push into October, what happens, and it's still trending up. So this is way up into the future, which is incredible. Into December we're still trending up, which is amazing. Now if you take a look here, we trended up into December, and then we got that sharp drawdown in liquidity, which was a clue that eventually XRP would do something like that. But obviously I didn't create the crystal ball until later down the line. I do apologize for that, but going forward, if we're respecting what we've done before, crystal ball trending up, XRP trending up. Okay, obviously inside of that you get drawdowns, but it's still trending up. So if we're expecting the crystal ball, it shows that okay, we've got liquidity coming into this market at some point. So this is why I'm not selling XRP. I'm holding on, looking for that continuation with the crystal ball liquidity, which is still flowing into the market. So obviously at some point we should experience a sharp drawdown, and once we do this, once we see that for me will be part of the confluence. Okay, we're looking at jumping ship and exiting this market. So if that's the case, XRP is still trending up, and liquidity is trending up into late November, which is amazing. Is this the beginning of a drawdown like it was there? Possibly. Let's keep an eye on the crystal ball. To get this into your charts, again, just go to CoinsKid.com. Really simple process. It's an on-site indicator and obviously a trading view indicator as well. But this is quite a sharp drawdown in September into October. Look at that, some kind of ABC. And right now this is potentially getting some kind of A into a B into a C, and this could be possibly some kind of channel that we're coming back like this into this neckline, into this zone here, which would be absolutely amazing. And then we go again with the crystal ball further down the line into Q4. So I'll keep you updated as best I can, but if you are looking for them micro trades, jump into the radar and the futures blocks. We're doing really well with those. Okay, hope you enjoyed that update. Stay up, stay strong, stay tuned. Take care everyone. Back to an update on XRP. Bye bye.